Okay, welcome back, folks. I'm losing count of what episode we're on, but with me today is a very special guest, Kristy Flynn, founder of an HR SaaS company called SkillCycle, and we're going to jump right in here. Kristy, HR SaaS, I'm sure that lots of our listeners have no idea what the heck that means. So maybe we just start off with what is SkillCycle?
Yep. No, great question. And hello everybody. And I'm thrilled to be here. I know Sean and Marion Capital very well and highly recommend if you ever need help, especially in your own company. What we do at SkillCycle. I'll answer the question with the journey, if that makes sense. So I am former human resources for over 20 years. I worked in a lot of enterprise companies like Pearson Education, mid-markets like Constant Contact, and a lot of startups. I've had several exits as an HR person. And even as an HR person in my 20-year experience, I have actually built HR tech systems. And why? Well, HR tech is a vast world of many systems that many employees use for a variety of reasons. And buyers like me are constantly looking to bring in systems that are solution based, that are action based, that are beneficial for an organization and for an employee, that it instills the why as to why we need this. So a lot of you probably know what HR tech systems are, probably from your paycheck and your benefits. It's coming from that. And some of you may know that, what they are from performance management reviews or how you got recruited into a company. So long story short, there is a lot of HR tech platforms out there, and they're broadly in two categories. Category one is what you call a point solution, meaning it does one thing, like it just hires you or it just pays you, or, you just do your performance review in it. And that's okay, but that's very annoying for buyers like me, and also very annoying for, employees when they have all these different systems that don't interconnect and they have a lot of the same data points. And then there is the other world of HR tech where they are everything solutions and they apparently do everything. And those solutions, they try to do everything. It's not good. And often those solutions are truly finance and IT solutions that HR gets muddied into, and it creates a terrible user experience. And so even though they can do everything, it's very modular, it's very interconnected, it's very archaic, and it's not built into the flow of work. So fast forward, what is SkillCycle to your question? What SkillCycle has done is that we are breaking the market of the point solutions and the everything solutions by bringing the right solutions together in the flow of work that is a true system of action, because the point solutions and the everything solutions are systems of record. They do nothing. They just store data. Our platform is a system of action that brings the most important components of work together, which is your goals and how they connect to your performance and how that connects to learning in a cycle within the flow of work. And so what does this mean to you day to day? Well, you all have goals, and we're all driving towards something. And we all get performance reviews, whether they're formal or informal, as far as feedback as to how you should be progressing, better, within your role. And then, you get this review and you're like, okay, well, how do I get better? So what? Like, what's next?
Or
Right?
does this mean I get a raise?
Right, yeah, or does this mean that I get a raise? I'm not getting a raise. It's broken. That data dies. And what often happens is that companies will bring in crunchy granola, generic training, to help people with communication skills. And that's not applicable because that doesn't connect to your goal necessarily. And it really doesn't connect to your performance. It's just generic stuff to maybe you'll grab a nugget of it that can help you, but it's really not gonna, and it's all reaction based too, right? It's past it. Ours is in a cycle. And so it's basically, if we see something in the data that is flowing from goals to performance, we're saying something with the learning. So Kristy, you need to enhance your communication skills. It's in my goals, and my manager has consistently been telling me, now I have that data with ADA, our AI, that's moving immediately into our learning center with our coaches, mentors, content, and AI to look at that data as to what does it mean by communication skills. Okay, I need to talk slower. I need to have a better executive presence. I need to manage my team more across the board. It could be a whole host of things, but we're getting that granularity. And especially with the human coach, that coach can take that granularity and create a plan that helps you now instead of your next performance review, where I'm sure you'll get the same review. And that's interconnected to your goals and to, everything else that you're doing at work. So we're proactive. We play offense. It's in the flow of work. We're a system of action that's brought the right things together, because that's why people work at the end of the day. In order to get the paycheck and the benefits, you need to accomplish the goals. You need to, perform, and you need to learn a lot of times in order to perform. So does that help there, Sean?
Yeah, that's definitely helpful. What what types of companies, what's the ideal customer profile for
Yeah.
SkillCycle?
We sell a lot into mid markets. And what I mean by mid markets is that we look at employee headcounts of roughly 100 employees all the way up to about 2,000. Why? Well, they're often riddled with too many point solutions, or God bless them, they're still working on spreadsheets. I can't tell you how many, organizations of 500, 600 doing performance management on spreadsheets. That pains me. And so we're coming in and we really help consolidate their tech stack, where they can have their HRIS, which does their payroll and their benefits. They could have us, which pretty much does everything else, and then they could have their ATS, their applicant tracking system, and it's a nice package, HR tech, and you're not riddled with all these monolithic systems where the data is getting stuck and dies, and it's not adding any value to the organization or the employee or the manager. We also have a lot of enterprises that see us and want us, which is great. And it's because the enterprises are often plagued with these everything solutions that don't work. And so what they do is they're not necessarily replacing them. They're just shutting off the HR stuff that they don't want in performance, in goals, and in learning. And they're still doing their HRIS and benefits through them, which is great, but they're giving us everything else too. And so we work in both. As we continue to get bigger, we're really starting to target both. They both have the same problems, just different way of solving it. And because our platform is agnostic in that way and amiable and flexible, we are enterprise ready. And so we have tons of great clients there that have expanded with us over the years too, where we are their system of action and their HRIS is their system of record.
Okay, got it. Let's back up a little bit. So SkillCycle is, I think these days, still technically headquartered in Philadelphia. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yep.
So I am Scranton proud, educated in Philly, go St. Joe's. Even though I left Philly to spend time in Boston to start my HR career, and then New York, where I extended my HR career and started to put together the grassroots stealth mode of what is now SkillCycle, I came back to Philly to really amp it and grow it. I'm not in Philly right now. I did lose my house. That is a whole other story.
What's the quick story on that? That was a
Yeah.
pandemic event, right?
Philly always likes to mess with you, right? So I finally come back, to Philly. Eagles are finally winning. Phillies are doing well. Got a beautiful brownstone down in Society Hill. Life is good. And then I went away on vacation. And for anyone in Philly, that we still have those water towers that are around. Yeah, it's not good when one falls onto your home. So it wiped out all 4 floors of our brownstone when we were away. And of course, it's Philadelphia and a National Historic Site too. So it took a very, very long time to get that rebuilt. We had migrated down to Florida to be snowbirds that essentially became permanent because it took years to get that rebuilt. And so Philly kind of gave it to me. And so I gave it back to Philly. I when it got rebuilt, I sold it. We still know that, you know, we got to, my family is all in Philadelphia. We got to get a place up there, but I think I'm going to be looking around the New Hope area. So if anybody has any, you know, homes that they're looking to sell, I love New Hope. But I think I'm done with Philly Center City for a bit.
New Hope is a beautiful section of Bucks County for
Yeah.
sure, especially within walking distance of Lambertville, New Jersey there.
Yeah.
Um, so you do have a number of employees. SkillCycle is employing people in and around Philadelphia, but everyone's working remotely these days, right?
Yeah. We've always been a remote based company, even before COVID. In my HR career, and this is before Zoom, you know, this is when I was talking into Cisco black boxes majority of the time. Like imagine being in a conference room. Like Zoom is at least better. Like I used to be in a conference room talking into a black Cisco box,
Hmm.
like, you know, very Star Wars like. But I was known as Virtual Kristy, right? Because you know, even though I lived in places like Boston and New York, I often was never in those offices because my span of control was typically global, you know, and across the US. And so I was known as Virtual Kristy. And so, and it worked out well because it really hones your listening and communication skills, right? And so, you know, for me to be on Zoom right now is a rarity, right? I prefer to be off Zoom video and just listening because I don't need to stare at somebody to listen to somebody. But you know, anyways, going back to the remote thing. So when I started my own company, I'm just like, I'm not going to let company walls dictate where my talent comes from. There's great talent everywhere across the US. And I know people across the US and global that I would love to work. And I'm not going to let it, you know, an office wall or a city dictate that. So even where in Philly, we are very heavy in our leadership team in Philly, where I got about 5 to 6 leaders there. You know, we span all the way across the U.S., the California. I got people out in Utah. I got people like me in Florida. And then our coach network is global. We have people, you know, not just in the US, but in South America, in EMEA, APAC, and all of Europe. And so, you know, the world of work has been remote for a long time. COVID didn't do that. What we have with what's going on right now is the unwillingness for people to change and them using it against people, you know what I mean, as to why they need to be in the office.
Hmm.
And so I have some fine words on that, you know, we could get into, but I think it's all, you know, I'll use an old Biden term. I think it's all malarkey with this return to office stuff. The world has been remote for a long time, and those that don't understand or get that or don't know how to communicate and lead with that, well, my company SkillCycle can help you. So just call us because the world's going to get even more remote now with the advancement of AI. Okay.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I mean, from my own firm's perspective, we do seem to find the remote first dynamic pretty productive, though we do find ourselves in not so infrequent situations, intense situations where it really helps to bring folks together for, you know, finite, relatively short periods to accomplish something that's, you know, kind of articulated beforehand. Hey, everybody's going to come in the office for X days, and we're coming in, we're leaving at the same time, and we're going to knock out, you know, milestone, fill in the blank within those X days. What do you and your clients see around the evolution of the value of in-person meeting?
Yeah. I mean, I'll answer for us personally, and then what we're seeing with a variety of clients across the spectrum. So, remote first works for us, but we do come together, at least try to come together at least 3 to 4 times a year, whether it be in leadership splits or in whole company. Um, and it is good for those reasons. But I will find that it is challenging to get people together,
Hmm.
right? Because kids
Hmm.
and school and life moments like babies and, anniversaries and all that. And so I don't, even though we do get together 3 to 4 times, like if we can't do it, I'm not going to force it, right? Because I'm not going to have people miss out on life moments to get on a plane, right? Especially if I could get the majority of the people in an office and then some people, zoom in, like, that's fine. And it's worked well. Where it hasn't worked well for us is that we had a couple of misfires. And I call them misfires. We hired them and then we ended up firing them. That said that they knew how to work remote, and I'll define what that means in a second. And then it didn't work out. So what it means to work remotely, it has nothing to do with your location. It has to do with your communication. It has to do with your collaboration. It has to do with your situational leadership, emotional intelligence, and change management. 9 out of 10. And those are all the quote unquote soft skills that are integral, not just to work remotely, but also to work in an office. And managers and leaders are challenged. Just going to call it I'm just going to call a spade here. The managers and leaders that do not know how to manage remotely are also the same managers and leaders that do not know how to manage an office, because you need those same skills in an office too. It's how you converse with other human beings. It's what separates us from animals. And so, it's a skill set issue. It's not a return to office issue. That is just a cheap and easy and lousy excuse to let go of people, for other reasons, like AI, and to say that they're not a team player. It's malarkey. What we're hearing from our clients, and so our clients, and you'll see this, like I said, enterprise companies like Pearson. I was working for Pearson back in 2010, so I think about 2014. We had offices. We were a remote-based company. There's 80,000 employees, right? In 80 different companies. I spent more time in California and Salt Lake City than I did in my office in New York, okay? Enterprise companies have been working remotely or mothership or satellite forever. And we
Hmm.
still see that. And so now enterprises, I feel, have a big vantage point where they can offer that flexibility because those skills have already been embedded. You have a dev team. Your dev team can be in New York, Salt Lake City, Sacramento, Toronto, and you've been working like that for 10 years, and COVID didn't change that. Okay, like just call it what it is. So we still see a lot of that on the enterprise side. We see a lot of it on the upper mid market. The more the head count, it's very hard to conform, right? That and without losing the vantage point of having top talent. And plus, the mid markets, like what I mean, they don't have the dollars that enterprises do
Hmm.
either to throw money, at a problem, right? And so they really can't afford to lose talent. And if they think they're going to replace all their talent with AI, well, good luck with that. Yes, and AI is a great, ability to enable us, and it will replace a lot of things. But it's also going to create a lot of new jobs because AI is going to create a lot of problems. Let's just call it what it is. And so you're going to need people. You're going to need that human interaction. And by the way, humans created AI, so I don't know why everybody's saying that we're getting rid of humans. How are we supposed to innovate, further? But we're seeing it in the mid market. They have to. In the lower end of the mid market, they're trying to force people in, and a lot of reasons is that lack of maturity. It's a younger company typically, where they're growing and the wheels are coming off, and so their forcing function is bringing people in. And that's not the right thing, because if you can't talk to somebody on the phone, how do you expect to talk to them in the office? It's the same communication skill. It's just a different mode.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so let's talk coaching. Um, I, I think most people, maybe I'm biased, but I sort of default to a phrase executive coaching. Is coaching just for executives? Is it for other types of employees? What kind of value do you and your clients see as really stemming from coaching? Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So the whole premise of my company, um, because I grew up with nothing as a kid in Scranton, and my parents worked very, very hard without college educations and blue collar union jobs to make sure that I had the, education that I needed to be able to do what I'm doing today. So, little FYI for everybody going after the colleges and that you don't need a college degree. This is what happens when you get a college degree. Anyways, going back to your question, how to get that little jab in. When it comes to the way that we're thinking about coaching, everybody should have the skills to be able to do their job. We grew up with this mindset in life that only special people should get the opportunity to upskill them. Why would you put all your eggs in one little basket? Right. And so it often is executives or, these special people that we call high potential. Well, wouldn't it be really cool if you had a lot more high potential people in that bucket because everybody was getting the skills that they needed and you had a lot more eggs in your basket? So if a couple do fall out and break, you're not completely, screwed.
Mm.
Everybody should have the ability to have the skills to do their jobs. That is my vision, and that has been my premise. And that is the way that we are making it accessible. It is common sense. It is smart sense. Putting your eggs in a small basket, one drops out, that basket's probably going to drop too. Putting your eggs in a much bigger basket, or if the few drop out, you'll be okay. The basket's not going to come out from underneath you. So that's essentially what we're doing. Everybody has goals. Everybody has performance. What are those data that drives into automatic learning? Because everybody should always be learning. Learning does not stop at K-12 or higher ed. Learning needs to continue on because we are changing at the speed of light. The skills of yesterday are not going to be the skills of today or tomorrow. And we've been enduring this, corporations for a while. I mean, I'll use Pearson Education again, and I use that one of the best companies I ever worked for. And yes, they have a lot of problems, but I was there at a time when we were moving away from the quote unquote publishing business and moving into the e-learning business. Right, everything's going online, and it was awesome, but it was tough because there's the core skill set of what publishers were doing. Writing, screening, putting together books, skills not needed anymore now that everything is on a platform. And, did we just whack the whole publishing side? No, that is not fiscally responsible. It costs you 3 to 5x to hire someone. When it costs you maybe 0.5x to train someone. Mm-hmm. We were able to bring and add skill sets to a lot of the old side of the business and the new side of the business. And it didn't happen for everybody, but where it did happen is when people had a growth mindset. They wanted to learn. They wanted to continue to skill themselves. And that is what you want to hire. And then for those that didn't, and they had more of a fixed mindset, they took their packages and we said, bye. And that's a value prop. When you look at Pearson, they have these values: brave, imaginative, and decent. And when I was brought in to help with this major transition, I looked at it in the values. What we were doing was brave. We were giving people the opportunity. By the way, we're an education company, right? Mm-hmm. We're not going to skill our own employees, but we're going to sell education. You kidding me? So let's be imaginative what we can do here. And let's be decent. And that's why a 250 plus year company is still around and is still a giant in this industry. And if other companies don't get that by now, you will never be around 200 years from now. You're still going to need people to do the work. People are still going to need skills. And you're still going to have goals with, a lot higher bars too. You can't hire the bar of your company without hiring the bar of your employees. That is the accountability of a company. And if you do that, you're going to be a loser, like some of the other losers out there who have hurt employees. And by the way, don't forget, employees are customers too. And they remember.
That's an excellent point. Do people even build companies with a 250-year perspective anymore?
Well, I mean, I know when I build SkillCycle, it isn't for the short run. Uh, and I have many investors, and they always hate the answer. That a typical, like, when you raise money, you know, and I raised money because I knew I couldn't do this on my own. I want to build a not an MVP. MVP is called minimal viable product. Well, that's why there's a lot of crappy products out there. Minimal
Hmm.
viable product. Can't get away with that in HR tech. I needed to build a maximum velocity product in HR tech. And so that's why I took investor money. So, anyways, I took investor money, and they always say to me, like, what's your number? What's your exit? When do you want to get out? When do you want to sell? Blah 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 blah. Like, it's part of their checklist. Like, guys, I made my money in HR, whether you believe it or not, and I can go and do that again. Guys, I put 500K in this company. Like, you think that there's a number? No, it's not a number. This is my passion in life. This is my calling. I saw what happens to people, my parents, Scranton, you know, companies, towns, be
Hmm.
ripped apart and have economic woes with people that want to work and that were just challenged by skills. It still exists today.
Oh, no doubt, it
Okay.
definitely exists,
It
as
exists
well
today.
there seem to be a lot of both physical and psychological barriers to mobility as well. I was just listening to a podcast on that topic earlier today. The people that have wound up in cities where, like you're describing, you know, industries have moved away,
Mhm.
uh, find themselves either not willing or not able to move and re-educate or retool for industries that are growing.
Yeah. It's a simple, dynamic here, a simple tower. People 99.9% of people, not, the oligarchs out there,
Hmm.
need to have a job to provide for themselves and their family, and to provide opportunities for their children and for their family that are better than what they had.
Hmm.
That is at the core of every American and probably every human being out there. And it's been very difficult because people are tossed aside countlessly and all the time because of lack of skills. This skills gap has been going on forever. And it's because it's been reactive, right? You don't have the skills, you're gone. SkillCycle is proactive action. We make it happen now. Don't got a school skill? Great, we can fill it. I want to ensure that everybody has the skills that they be able to do their job. So to answer your question, yes, I am not going to be alive 250 years from now, unless, like, they put my subconscious, like, I made into, like, a cyborg, which I'm sure is coming next. Everything this comes out of the movies. So that's, you're watching Alien Earth. Very good. That's what's coming next. This is a preview, guys. So unless my consciousness is put into a cyborg and I could live forever, I'm going to be gone, but my company should still be here. And it's because we're providing to people to get the skills they need to do their job. And when they have a job, they have a will, they have a way, they're able to provide for their families, and things are a lot easier. Nobody should have to go through what I went through and what my parents went through, that were willing, capable, and able. And nobody, barely anybody was giving them a chance. So, investors, you want a number? 250 years from now, do the calculation with that inflation.
If it's still around, it has to be a big company, by
Yeah.
definition. Kristy, I think that's such an important topic. I was surprised when I saw a stat you surfaced for us recently, which said half of employers believe, or employers, 9 out of 10, maybe it was 9 out of 10 employers believe that half of the college educated workforce is not ready to actually perform the roles for which they're hired.
Yeah. Um, yeah. And nobody should be surprised by that. I am college educated. right? I even have a master's and MBA. Um, and I was a deer in headlights for the first 3 years of my career, right? College teaches you a lot.
Hmm.
It's about the application
Hmm.
as to what it means, what you're learning in school. How do you drive that application, into the world of work? If you don't have the learning, it's going to be even harder to drive that application, right? But the application can come very quickly for some people, right? For doctors, for example, like if they have to go to
Hmm.
school and they know that they have to, like, perform the surgery and they know how to do it. They've been trained, they've been taught, and all that. But leaving aside the specialty jobs like that, right? And if you're just entering into the business world, the business world is a munch, and it's constantly changing. And so, did I have to be taught, how I did payroll? Because that was my first job. I did HRIS in payroll. Yes. Did I put two and two together, from things that I learned in college? Yes. But did I need uh, on-site training for like some other things, like when it came to their systems and what it means to have a GL ledger perfect? Because if you don't, like, what the domino effect can be, because I messed up the GL ledger the one time. I was off by like 10 cents in payroll. I didn't think it was going to be a big deal. It was a big deal when I got a phone call from the CFO. And so, and that's part of on-site learning. And that's where organizations need to pick up and be ready. Is to take what people are learning in school, what that learning is, and how to apply it. And if corporations are blaming colleges, that's a bunch of malarkey too. And if colleges are blaming corporations, I give them a pass. And the reason is that back in my days, I was able to get, opportunities because I went to college because, I went to a Philly school and they had a lot of Philly relationships with a lot of the Philly companies. And I was able to get a lot of interviews based off of that. Did I get all those jobs? No. Did I get one? Yeah, but it landed me up in Boston and not even Philly, right? And so everybody talks about networking. Everybody talks about job readiness. College is your first rejection,
Hmm.
right? You got to put on your big girl, big boy pants, okay? Because you're not going to get into all the colleges. And then when you go to college, you realize that you're not as smart as you thought you were. Okay, you're rejected again. You actually, have to take out money. I don't think taking money out and loans out for college is a bad thing. That teaches you financial responsibility ASAP. Okay. I took out lots of money. And yes, I was in debt for 20 plus years. I paid my last student loan bill, I think, a year ago. And by the way, I'm
Wow.
46. So I paid my last student loan bill when I was 45. Was it awesome? Yes. Am I happy I don't have to pay Sally Mae anymore? By the way, what a beautiful name, but like that she knocks on your door every month, right? And you got to pay the woman. Wrong name for that type of company. But anyways, it teaches you financial responsibility. You know, college teaches you networking. College teaches you lots of different arts and sciences so that you kind of can get an idea of what you want to do. My first major in college was not HR. My first major in college, I was pre-med. I was supposed to go to Thomas Jefferson Med School. I did 4 years of St. Joe's in 2 years, and I was supposed to go to med school. Now I found out is that yeah, I could go to med school, but it's really tough when somebody dies. And I immediately jumped out of med school because I went. I knew I wanted to be a doctor because I was a lifeguard in high school, and I saved my neighbor. That was awesome. But then somebody died when I was in college, and I couldn't save them. Like, ooh, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. But I had the ability to pivot, and I knew I wanted to help people, and that's how I jumped into organizational development, labor relations, human resource, and they helped me get my first job at Southern Bell Corporation, which is now Comcast, out of King of Prussia,
Hmm.
right? So this whole thing that is going on right now is nothing but division of society, malarkey, uh, everybody just shooting everybody down and blaming everybody for anything. I would not be here if it was not for college. And yes, I paid $80,000 in debt. Well, I have a company now, and Sean, you know the valuation, but let's just say it's pretty good. And could I start this company when I was 22 years old? I could have. Was I prepared to do it? Absolutely not.
Yeah, you wouldn't have had the perspective that you have now to be able to shape product, talk to customers, to manage your own employee workforce. Yeah, that would be really challenging.
Well, look at the perspectives of the 20-year-olds that have created companies. A
Hmm.
20-year-old created a networking site to bully people. A 20-year-old created a networking site to bully people.
Yeah.
Still exists now.
Oh,
And
yeah, yeah.
let's talk about these 20-year-olds and what they created, right? They're part of the plagues of society right now. Um, College teaches you your first lesson in true responsibility. It's not just about what's in the classroom, it's about what's outside the classroom. And the thing that I will say is that, I don't go to church, and, I have a cross, but I don't consider myself to be Catholic by any means. I went to Catholic and Jesuit colleges,
Mhm.
and what that taught me is humanity. And you don't need to be a religious person to understand what humanity is. And because of that education and schooling, because I even went to, I went to the University of Scranton for my grad school, and that was Jesuit too. That's lacking. And these colleges need to stay and not go away. Because if we don't have humanity, we got nothing. And we're
Yeah,
just going to continue to have division and all these problems that people are just making up just to point fingers at other problems, and then, take money from their pockets and basically fleece them. What's going on is just a bunch of fleecing with blaming people.
a lot to unpack there. Maybe we'll do that.
Sorry.
No, all good, all good. But look, this is a great forum for
Well, Sean, I didn't create a company to stand
unfettered
down. I created a
opinions.
company to
Right.
stand up.
Hey, I love it. We wouldn't be working together otherwise. Okay, maybe two more questions for you before we wrap up here. So, SkillCycle, obviously, you've gotten it to a point where you've taken external capital, you've completed a Series A, you're on your way to fairly significant growth this year. After, I think this will be like your third or fourth year of significant growth, even
Inc.
including a
5,000, three
yeah. Oh
years in a
yeah,
row.
right. I
Inc.
should have brought that
5,000,
up.
3 years in a row.
That's fantastic. That's a
Yeah.
huge achievement. So what would you say the company's greatest challenge is today?
It's a great question. I think the challenge, at like a company level is, our customers wanting to change, and how we help them do that. But they gotta be quicker, right? You've got to keep up. Now is not a time to be a laggard, right? And HR, it's tough. HR is in a tough spot with the advancement of AI, right?
Mm.
Because, like, yes, AI is going to solve a lot of problems, but it's going to create a lot of problems, and a lot of those problems are going to be on HR. Hate to say it, I've dealt with it for 20 years. It's always an HR problem. And so, there's going to be hesitation there, and they can't hesitate. They need to utilize it. And the way that we look at AI, ADA, is our AI is with high efficacy and high ethics and data integrity and data security, that it enables people. And, I'm an HR person. And so find safety with me. I'm not the Silicon Valley bro that's going to get you in hot water, a couple months from now. I'm going to be the person that raises you. And so, uh, you know, I think, if there's hesitation, I could take out all the hesitation and just see us and know that. I think, at a company within my company, I don't know, I gotta come out and say this, like, yeah, I'm using AI in lots of places in my company, but I still need human beings. And so, we're hiring. My company needs help in a lot of places, sales, account management, product implementation. And yes, I am leveraging AI internally a lot in my organization. I still need bodies that are well
Mhm.
justified. So that's a challenge. And then, the challenge that I'm going to continue to have, and Sean, this, is that I took investor money. And I have 8 investors right now, and 7 of them are very aligned with my mission and vision and my values, and our value prop and our go to market and all that stuff. And there's one that's not. And it's when you take investor money, like this, you're taking money from the devil at the end of the day. They want their money back 10x, right? It's a deal you make. You need their money to be able to grow, and I really want their money so that I was building a good product and not a bunch of bubble gum and sticks,
Mhm.
right? Because that's another thing society has played with, is very bad products. It's annoying. And so my MVP is called maximum velocity potential, not minimal viable. HR does not need minimal viable when it comes to all the people that they deal with. So um, it's making sure that I find that alignment out there, and I find, good human beings as we continue to grow. Because, taking investor money, it is a marriage. And, I am a commitment person. And, but I'm going to go back to my own rules. Better have a growth mindset, because if you don't have a growth mindset and you have a fixed mindset, that's antagonistic to the whole core of my company. So it is a challenge. I'm maturing. I'm stretching myself in different ways. Um, I have been challenged because I don't fit the mold. I look like this and not something else. I didn't go to Stanford. I went to St. Joe's. I get told that all the time, and I'm like, don't know what to tell you. Uh, you know, this is how I was born, and even if I wanted to change, it's illegal now, so can't do anything about it. So whatever. Um, and that's okay. Um, I have fallen a lot in my life and in my career. It fuels me. You will not break me. You just fuel me. And that is another reason why I've gotten that far. And I got that fuel from being, going to school, being an athlete, and not having a lot of things as a child growing up, and seeing the pain of the world. Um, and I want to take that pain and put it into potential.
Mhm.
That's all I want to do. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm going to keep on going, and go from there. So there's always going to be problems. It's how you solve them that matters. And
Yeah.
I lead with my values first. You break my values, you're gone.
Kristy, one last question for you. What is the number one effort that our audience, who consists of other founders, other investors, service providers to all of the above, uh, folks, just probably community of college professors, educating future SkillCycle customers and employees, and then folks that aspire to work with companies like yours. Uh, what's the number one thing folks in that audience could do to help you or help SkillCycle?
Um, I'm always looking for good checks from good people, and I'm always looking for good employees and good coaches. I think that, what this world needs and what SkillCycle is able to provide is that, in my mind, the number one skill that people need now more than ever is called communication. Being able to ask and not assume, to be able to speak with intelligence and not insults, and to
Mm.
actively work for resolve, and not whatever the hell this is. Um, human skills are needed more than ever. And AI can help with that. And so can SkillCycle with AI and with humans too. Um, I think that if everybody just does their part and gets up and tries every day to have that communication, even when they don't want to, because it's easier to point fingers rather than accept accountability. Um, but if we're all here and we're all feeling it, and it doesn't matter what we voted for or what we not, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if we're in AI or not. We are all feeling it. And the one thing that everybody can do every single day and try to do every day is to have a few good communications, because those few communications will cascade into other good communications and other good communications. And a good communication, even if they're, even if it's a scary conversation, like you're giving somebody feedback, you're giving people feedback to help them, not to hurt them. So just let them know that, and let them feel safe. Um, because if we do that, we could change a lot of things when we really start communicating together, instead of attacking each other.
Well said, Kristy. That's a fantastic place to close. I really appreciate your generosity with your time today, your willingness to share such a candid message, and thanks to the audience for tuning in to another episode of Beyond the Inflection Point.
Yeah, I got one more thing to say.
Sure.
Go Eagles.
Excellent. Thanks, Kristy.
All right, take care. Thanks, Sean.